includes pressure from the federal government, it must be said. Let's bring in Julia Lee. She's from Bell Direct to join the conversation. Julia, I'm curious to know, because when it comes to AGL, I mean, is this offer compelling from a commercial perspective for AGL shareholders?
I think the biggest issue for AGL at the moment is that Alinta represents renewed competition on the East Coast. So if you have a look at Alinta, it was mainly operating on the West Coast, and really it's been buying up assets on the East Coast, and I guess the Liddell proposal is part of that, and it is moving quite aggressively. I think it's trying to aim for 400,000 customers by the end of the year on the East Coast. So that renewed retail competition is intense, and that involves bidding for some assets to, of course, service those customers as well. So if you have a look at the outlook for AGL, I think one of the things to consider, and I guess one of the key considerations, is the intensifying competition. And we've seen how competition has hit other sectors in the past, whether it's the supermarket sector or whether it's the telecom sector. And generally what you see is prices falling, and you see, I guess, margins also decreasing, and the biggest players in the markets are the ones that have the most to lose in terms of market share. So I guess AGL, Energy, Origin, these are the type of companies that you would expect to see affected. And I guess in terms of the wholesale pricing, which Liddell is related to, you've probably seen the best of the wholesale pricing for the time being. And what that renewed retail competition actually means is that you'll probably see some of that margin that was attributed to wholesale pricing and the strength of that being eroded, because I guess in terms of retail, it's becoming a lot more competitive in terms of the East Coast market.
So, AGL, I mean, what's your outlook for the company overall?
For me, I would stay away from a company like AGL. I think not only in terms of the micro factors where you are seeing intensifying competition, and I guess just having a look at this space, it is one of those bond proxies as well. And if you have a look at the strengthening in terms of US yields, there's a lot, I guess, riding against AGL at the moment. So in terms of AGL Energy, the Liddell proposal, look, I think it's more of a political football at the moment. And the bigger issue, I think, is the intensifying competition on the East Coast, and that's not likely to die down over the next few years. If anything, that's likely to get worse, and that's going to result in probably weakening margins, also a threat in terms of the market share it holds on that East Coast.
We can talk about the those in the property space. I mean, we had the A-REITs doing quite well today, no doubt, because we did see 10-year US Treasury yields retreating, but also we heard from Stockland had a strong third quarter, and the company really maintaining its full year guidance. It's talking about not just its residential business, but its retail business as well. And Julia, this is a part of the business that has been underperforming its peers. So how did you read the result or the update coming from Stockland?
Look, I think the market knows about the strength of the residential side of the business. It's the retail part of the business that has been worrying the market. And in terms of the residential, it's still on track to settle 6,500 residential lots for the full year. So the strength still is there. I think what the market was reacting to was the favourable update that we saw for retail conditions for Stockland. They said comparable specialty retail sales growth per square metre was up 3% since December 2017, and that it was still on track to meet their guidance. So I think the strength of some of the commentary coming through from the retail space, especially given what we know in this sector, that we are seeing, I guess, companies like Myer trying to decrease foot space, and not only Myer but some of the others, and we have seen some of the franchisees like Retail Food Group coming under pressure, probably pointing to some more of their stores closing. So altogether, I think it was a pretty strong update coming through from Stockland.
Julia, just looking, it seems as if we've finished at a 6-week closing high today. Not a bad way to finish the month of April.
The month of April is actually the only positive month that we've seen in 2018 so far. So given that we've seen 3 consecutive months of losses, it's good to finally see a month in the black. So up by 3.9% for the month, and really it has been the strength of the resources which has carried us through April. And that's the energy sector, which has been the best performing, and the material sector, which has also been doing well. I suspect going into May, we're going to be really concentrating on the big 4 banks. Well, 3 of the big 4 banks heading into bank reporting season, and we'll see ANZ kicking off tomorrow. So the banks did well on the market today because, of course, after bank reporting season is bank dividend season, and that tends to be supportive for share price. So look, ANZ was up 0.8%. NAB's going to follow on Thursday with its report, and that stock was up by 1.3%. I guess the other thing I was watching, just coming out of China, which was quite interesting, China's cut its rare earth quota, so it's only targeting 70% of what it targeted in 2017. So this is an interesting one, given it controls so much of the market. But Lynas didn't have a huge reaction on the market today. It was only up by 0.8%, but that's probably a stock I'm going to be watching over the next couple of sessions.
Yeah, we were all just typing on our keyboards trying to see what Lynas did today, and you answered our question, Julia. You will be answering questions tonight on Equity Investor. What's lined up for us?
We have Michael Gable from Fairmont Equities, as well as Richard Hemming from Under the Radar. So hopefully we'll be able to sort through some of the smaller companies on the Australian market and some interesting buy, hold, sells coming from our panel.
All right, Julia, always a pleasure. Thank you.